the beginning, no one noticed you. You were quiet, ordinary, and easy to overlook. While others chased attention, you kept to yourself. You watched others win while you sat on the sidelines. There was a dream in your heart, but fear in your mind. You didn't know how to begin, so you did nothing. But even doing nothing hurt, because deep down, you knew you were meant for more. You weren't weak, just unsure. You weren't lazy, just lost. You took your first step. It wasn't perfect, but it was yours. You tried something new. It didn't work out? They laughed. You smiled, but inside, it stung. You told yourself it's okay, but it wasn't. You wanted to quit. You went home and stared at the ceiling. You thought about giving up, but something inside of you refused. That voice, the quiet one, said, "Try again." So you did, and you failed again? But this time, it didn't destroy you. It woke something up. The seed of a fighter was growing. Slowly, silently, but surely. You started waking up earlier. You started moving more. You began listening to your thoughts, and realized most of them were lies. Lies telling you that you can't, that you're too late, that you'll never be enough. But you didn't listen this time. You trained anyway. You kept going anyway. You didn't need motivation. You needed purpose. So you wrote down your why. And that changed everything. You started building habits. You stopped negotiating with weakness. You stopped chasing comfort. You started seeking challenge. Not because it was easy, but because you needed it. Because pain became your compass. Every workout was a war. Every early morning was a battle. Every choice was a test. You didn't win every time, but you kept showing up, and that made all the difference. People still didn't notice, but you did. You saw the small changes. You felt the fire growing. You didn't tell anyone about the struggle, because they wouldn't understand. This fight was personal. It wasn't you versus them. It was you versus the old version of yourself. The lazy one, the scared one, the one who doubted everything. And you started winning. Not loudly, but consistently. Your energy changed. Your body changed. Your mindset sharpened. You became focused. You stopped reacting. You started leading. Not others and yourself. You became your own hero. You stopped waiting for rescue. You became the rescuer. The journey was long. The path was uphill. But every step made you stronger. You weren't seeking easy. You were chasing growth. You welcomed the grind. You made peace with the process. Because results come later. Discipline comes first. And you chose discipline every day. You lost friends along the way. They didn't understand your change. They called you obsessed. They called you different. They were right. You were different. You were focused. You had a vision. And visions are lonely at the start, but they're powerful beyond words. You stopped living for approval. You started living for impact. You realized greatness isn't loud. It's silent. It's built in the dark. And you were okay with the dark because that's where your light grew. That's where your future was forged. Not in applause, but in adversity. Not in comfort, but in conflict. You didn't always feel strong, but you kept acting strong. You didn't always feel ready, but you kept showing up. You didn't wait for the perfect moment. You created it. You faced fear with your eyes open. You embraced failure as a teacher. You turned pressure into fuel, and pain into power. You stopped waiting for someone to believe in you. You became your own believer. You no longer needed a crowd to cheer you on. You clapped for yourself. You weren't chasing fame. You were chasing mastery. Because mastery lasts longer than applause. You found joy in the silence, peace in the repetition. You discovered discipline wasn't punishment. It was freedom. You weren't afraid of being different anymore. You were afraid of being average. You were done fitting in because you were born to stand out. Not loudly, not arrogantly, but intentionally, relentlessly. You started loving the hard days because they shaped you. The pain didn't break you, it built you. You didn't see obstacles anymore. You saw opportunities to rise. You saw resistance as growth. and failure as feedback. You stopped needing everything to go right. You just needed the strength to keep going when it didn't. You weren't addicted to motivation anymore. You were committed to the mission, because feelings come and go, but purpose stays. You realized your story wasn't over. It was just beginning. And you were the author now? You held the pen. You wrote with courage. You wrote with sweat. You wrote with scars. You didn't erase your past. You used it as proof that you survived. You stopped running from the old you. You faced them and said, "Thank you," because that version fell, so you could rise. They were lost, so you could find your path. They were afraid, so you could discover courage. You learned to rest, not quit. You knew progress wasn't always visible, but you trusted the process. You weren't desperate for results. You were addicted to effort, to the next rep, the next page, the next second of fight. You realized the real competition was the voice in your head that said, "Give up, you can't," but you learned to answer back with action, with grit, with fire. You didn't need validation anymore. You needed vision, and you had it. It pulled you through the pain. It reminded you who you were becoming, not the person they remembered, but the person they never expected. You became unstoppable, not because you never failed, but because failure didn't own you anymore. You used it, you welcomed it, because each time you fell, you got up stronger. You weren't afraid to start over. You weren't afraid to be a beginner. You knew humility was your greatest tool, because humility listens, and learners become leaders. You made sacrifices, quiet ones, lonely ones. You said no to parties, no to distractions, no to the easy way out, because yes to growth required no to everything else. You understood now? Success isn't luck. It's built, brick by brick, hour by hour, choice by choice. You were done wasting time. You protected your focus. You guarded your energy, because you realized both were currency, and you spent them wisely. You trained in the dark, prepared when no one was watching, not for the recognition, but for the readiness. You were building something unshakable, not a moment, a mindset, not hype, a habit, not a wishful away. You didn't compare yourself anymore. You competed with who you were yesterday, and that made you dangerous, because you were always improving, always evolving, always moving forward. You stopped hiding your intensity. You embraced it, because it was never too much. It was exactly what you needed to fight through the noise, to rise through the resistance. You learned to love the climb, because the summit was earned, not given. You learned to be patient, because true strength takes time. You didn't rush results. You refined your effort. You found your rhythm, a warrior's rhythm. Focused, steady, determined. Your days had structure. Your thoughts had clarity. Your actions had purpose. You didn't need a stage. You became the stage, a living message of grit, of heart, of resilience. You learned success isn't what you get. It's who you become. And you became unrecognizable, not to the world, but to your old self. You walked taller, spoke with conviction, moved with intention. You no longer doubted your worth. You knew it, lived it, earned it. You found peace in the pursuit, because the process became the reward. You weren't waiting for a finish line anymore. You were running every day like it was your first, and that's why you'll never stop. And now, they'll wonder how you did it. But they didn't see the late nights, the early mornings, the silent battles, the invisible growth. They'll see the results, but you'll remember the grind, because this wasn't luck. This was earned, with tears, with discipline, with vision. You're not done. This is just the beginning. A new level awaits. A stronger version is calling. So keep showing up. Keep fighting forward, because greatness isn't a destination. It's a decision you make every single day.